Hi, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. Glad to be back with you. Well, this month I turned 70, which is amazing to me, horrifying to me, a blessing to me, and shocking. I thought it would take longer, but it took this amount of time. So I am going to have some fun with you, just talking about things in sevens today. And today is going to be 7 things that I saw as a child that if you are under the age of 70, you may never have seen. And I would like you to let me know if you saw these things. So the first one was at my grandmother Mamita's house. She lived in San Francisco in one of those tall classic San Francisco houses. So they had 3 stories. They had a basement, which in the back was a daylight basement, and then the first floor, and then the top floor. And each of those were a flat where people could live with bathrooms and kitchens and everything. So down in the very bottom of that, it was really fun to go down with her when she was doing laundry. And I got to do that quite often because Mamita could get clothes clean like nobody I'd ever seen. In fact, her daughters, who were all married, would bring their husbands' white shirts. That was the time that men wore white shirts. And they would get this ring around the collar, and it would be so hard to get out, but Mamita could get it out. She would start by boiling water in a great big pot on her natural gas stove. And she boiled that clothes for quite a while. Luckily, it was cotton. And then she would pack it down to her wringer washer. Now, that was a very interesting thing. I don't really know how it filled up. I don't remember that, if she had to pour hot water in there or put it in with a hose or if it was connected, and I have no idea. But it was really fun to watch. It beat the living tar out of that clothes. And then when it was done, Mamita would reach in with a stick. So that makes me think the water was really hot, actually. And it had a thing at the top, the wringer, and it would have 2 things like this that were rolling in the same direction. And she would stick it in there. You had to be careful. You wouldn't want to get your fingers in there. She would stick it in there and it would squeeze out almost every bit of liquid that was attached to that clothing. And so it would wring it out. Another thing that she had, so number 2, and this was clear at the top of the house that I remember this, the top story, there was a clothesline. I'm sure she had one down in the basement in the yard, but the one I remember was at the 3rd story. And like I said, this was San Francisco. She had a clothesline attached to her house, and it stretched all the way through her yard and attached to the neighbor's house across the way. And they had big wheeled roller things. And so the line would go on like this. And you would just grab that line and you could pull it towards you or push it away from you if you were loading clothes on, so you could put the next batch. I really liked those. In fact, I wouldn't mind having one now. Now, my other grandma, she had a party line. She lived way out in the country. We did not have one. And my grandmother Mamita did not, but my grandma Weathers did. She had a party line. And so you would pick up the phone, when you needed to make a call. And I don't know how many people were on that party line. And you would get ready to dial. And sometimes you could because you had a dial tone. But sometimes you'd hear somebody talking. So actually, when you picked it up, you needed to be very quiet so you didn't disturb them. And listen first to see if you had a dial tone or a person was on it. And if you had good manners, you heard somebody on it, you would very quietly hang up. And if you were a snoop, you would very quietly pick it up and listen to see what they had to say. I can't say I ever did that. Something my Uncle Harry Weathers had was a gunpowder shotgun. Now, I don't know how often he used that when I was young, but he had one, and he was quite the outdoorsman. And so with those, you would put, I don't remember exactly how, but you would put like a wad of cloth inside the barrel, and you would tamp it down, and then you would put, at some point, I'm going to get these wrong, you'd put some gunpowder, and then you would put something that caused it to spark, and more wadding of some sort. And then you would put your ball in, I believe, last. And then when they fired that, it would all hit. There'd be like a little fire combustion, and out would shoot that ball. I'm guessing that probably the wad in that shot out too. So if you know more about that, please let me know. Now, back to San Francisco. My grandparents, they lived in the city, obviously. They had a special cart. It was tall, and so very deep, and it was on wheels with a handle, and they took that when they went grocery shopping, because you didn't drive to the store then. You just went to the corner market. In fact, as far as I know, my grandfather never drove, and certainly my grandmother didn't. So they did their walking to get their stuff, and when they were done, they'd put the bags inside this cart and bring them on home. Now, neither of my grandparents had this when I was young, but I had a girlfriend named Heidi and her husband Roger, and they lived off-grid in Riddle, Oregon, and they had an ice box. So that was an insulated box. It was wood. It was really very pretty. And they would go get blocks of ice and put them inside of that, and that is how they refrigerated their perishables. Something else I saw in the city when I was walking around that, boy, we would never see now: cigarette vending machines. You put your money in and get out your Pall Malls or Lucky Strike, or a lot of those that you never hear of anymore. And so I've read you all 7. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have some other things that you remember, would you please leave them in the message? And the other thing, I have 666 subscribers now. What a number. I would love, within the next month and a half, to reach 700 in honor of my 70th birthday. So if you could please help me with that, share this channel with your friends and ones that you think might enjoy it. Post it on your media, whether it's Facebook or whatever, and encourage people. That would be a real blessing to me. In fact, That could be your gift to me. Well, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I want to pray blessings on you and yours, in your house, out of your house, in the day and night, whatever you do, keep dreaming. God bless you.